Yo, what is up, guys? Grim here. So today's video is going to be a little bit different to normal. Today I wanted to kind of talk about a topic and give you guys my thoughts on it and kind of what I think might happen and my opinion a bit. So after this video is done, make sure you leave your thoughts on this kind of a video down below because I'm really interested to see if you guys like these kind of discussion videos versus just straight up tutorials. Because I really do like discussing PoE. It's one of my favorite things to do. So if you guys like these things, maybe I'll be able to put more of these out and not just straight up tutorials. So let's get straight into the topic. Today's topic is going to be nerfs versus buffs. So in the past, PoE's done a lot of buffing. It's also done a lot of nerfing. And I wanted to talk about the pros and cons of both of them and kind of what I think needs a little bit of nerfing or a little bit of buffing in the game right now. And what I'm kind of looking for in 3.2, to be honest with you. So let's go through kind of a bit of a topic list. So to begin with, we've got the big three builds. Just to kind of preface this a little bit, I don't really do too many bosses in PoE. I kind of just do them like once or twice a league, and then I'm done with them. They're not too lucrative to farm on softcore, and I don't really find doing something I've done so many times before fun, especially when it's not making me that much money. So this is going to be strictly for mapping kind of only, and that's what I'm going to be focusing on in this video. So the big three for mapping are definitely Cosprey Discharge, which is easily the fastest build, but it does have some weaknesses. EK, which is definitely the most all-around flexible build in the game right now. It can pretty much do anything and slot into any map and just smash it really quickly, whereas the other two can have a bit of difficulty, which are on this list. The final one is Wind Ripper. So you kind of got a really interesting meta here. You've got a bow build, you've got a kind of uh, crit-based explosion build, I guess Cosprey is, and then you've got your just general spellcaster, which is in a lot of RPGs. So I just kind of wanted to talk about how I would rate all these builds and kind of whether they need a nerf a little bit and how I would nerf them. So to begin with, I don't think these are overly extremely overpowered. I think that they're pretty much in line with what we want to see from mapping characters. It's possible EK is a little bit too over the line. It's able to do pretty much everything in the game with an absurd amount of magic find gear on it and have really no penalty. It can even kill the bosses in most of the high tier maps without much trouble as long as you have Vol Breach down and some decent gear. So that's probably a little bit too powerful. Wind Ripper, on the other hand, has the highest magic find in the game easily because of the Wind Ripper bow, obviously, and the ability to forego using Insanity Gloves because you don't use a movement skill for Sedemas. It's easily the highest magic find and best choice for things like Vault, but it's kind of got a niche. It's not all around good. It's not just the best in every situation. Oftentimes, like when you're pushing the ladder, EK is the best. If you're farming currency in open layouts, EK is the best. If you're looking for just a mapper which can do everything, EK is the best. So EK is really just the jack of all trades, and that's why I think this is the one that needs to nerf the most on the thing on the list here. Cosprey, on the other hand, it's pretty expensive to set up. It really struggles without the headhunter buffs. Cosprey's damage is completely based on jewels as well for the most part. You're scaling critical strike multiplier through the jewels, which can get very pricey and aren't really openly available in the first few days of the league. So it's kind of very difficult to set up, I would say. You need an off-color 6-link Vol's Protector. There's no way you're playing Cosprey with a Tabula Rasa. So it requires a large amount of investment is what I'm getting at here. And then when you finally do get it going, it's really not great at anything but narrow kind of layouts. So if you take Cosprey into Dunes, there's no way it's going to be as fast as EK in Dunes because it just doesn't have the surface area that EK does have. So Cosprey, I think it's fine. It's really powerful on maps like Channel, like Waste Pool, things that are narrow, which all the monsters are in a small, tight area where the area of your spell isn't too kind of important. When you get onto a map like Dunes, though, you really feel that area nerf. You're not going to be hitting everything on the screen, that's for sure. So Cosprey is pretty much in check ever since the AoE nerfs and the nerfs to the cooldown on the sword itself. So I think Cosprey and Wind Ripper are fine. Wind Ripper might be pushing a little bit because of the amount of magic find you can get, and when you stack that up in a group in Vault, it can get kind of out of control. But I think EK is the really big abuser of Light Poacher as well. All these builds use Light Poacher, but I think EK abuses it probably the most. Cosprey obviously does like use it quite a lot. but nowhere near to the extent that EK does. Obviously, it just makes EK excel even more in open layouts than it already does. So I think I'd take EK down a notch. The light poacher nerfs that are coming in aren't really going to affect any of these builds too much. You're just going to swap out Fizz to Lightning for Pierce, and you're just going to slot in that instead of that. And you're not going to notice really too much of a difference. Obviously, unlimited pierces is a lot better than 2 or 3, but it's not going to matter a lot of the time because basically what you're looking for from this is the raw stats from Light Poacher, which it has a lot of if you get the 2 socket, and you're looking for the heal from Light Poacher as well. The damage boost is just gravy on top of that, in my opinion. So that's what you're getting from those kind of builds. The way I would hit EK is just to nerf its damage. I think in terms of its damage on just flat out, straight out in the start of a league and without a lot of gear, it's just too high, especially with all the Fizz conversion statistics out there. It's very easy to get going. Out of the 3 builds, it's by far the easiest at the start of the league to gear up. You can basically play EK on a tabula rasa, and it's pretty much just as good. Obviously, you're missing a bit of damage there, but you're honestly not penalized too much. I know a lot of people think the damage is already low, but I would lower it further just to kind of give it a bit of weakness. Again, they could reduce the amount of projectiles you get from the threshold jewel, but I almost think that's borderline on making it unplayable as a skill, and it's going to really hit the consistency of the skill. Because if you shoot a Nova and it misses half the mobs, that really doesn't feel too great. So I'd probably hit the damage. I think that's all you really can hit on the skill to kind of bring it in line. So again, EK is definitely the most powerful. Cosprey is probably a second, and then Wind Ripper I think is pretty much fine. Something's going to have the highest magic find in the game. It may as well be a skill that doesn't use any mobility and kind of relies on Blink Arrow and running around. And they often have to run Queen of the Forest, which just got nerfed. So I think Wind Ripper is in a pretty good place. It is fairly dominant in maps like Vault, but I think that's fine. In terms of clear speed and getting to level 100, I think EK and Cosprey are the biggest defenders. EK way more so. So I expect an EK nerf, which is going to push a lot of people onto Cosprey, which then it might get nerfed. And it's going to be just kind of a cycle of kind of nerfing. So I think those are the things that really do need a nerf in the game at the moment. Those are just the builds. I kind of wanted to talk about the items. So I think Cosprey's Malice, the sword, it's fine. It's pretty powerful, but it's fine. If I was going to nerf that, I'd nerf the attack speed on it to just kind of bring the clear speed in line a little bit with everything else. I think it's a bit over the top that it's a jeweled foil, has an attack speed mod on it, and it is the fastest build in the game in terms of clear speed in maps like Channel and stuff. Especially if we're looking at getting tier 16 Channel, it's going to be the fastest build to get 100 with, I would assume, if you can get the survivability on it. I'm not sure about that though, I don't play in hardcore. So, Light Poacher, it's being nerfed, although I don't think they're taking it far enough. I would completely limit the 2 socket. I wouldn't have that available. I think it pushes the Light Poacher base stats way over the top. It becomes the highest life helmet almost that you can get, along with being the highest sustain helmet, resistance helmet, and damage helmet in the game, which is kind of ridiculous. The only reason you'd use any other unique helmet is for their unique abilities, which Light Poachers is arguably the best unique ability in the game for clearing maps again. So just strictly this is maps. So very powerful. Probably needs another nerf. Take a Abyssal socket off it, I would say. No 2 sockets. Just stick to the 3, I think is fair. And then the last one here, I think, which is the major one, is Ashe's Mirror. Ashe's Mirror is way over the top. EK has a pretty low base damage. And I could see the build suffering a little bit if Ashe's Mirror is hit, and maybe you could not hit EK so much if you hit the mirror. But Ashe's Mirror basically allows you to say, ignore all damage. You just get that from killing monsters. And what really tips it over the top is on a build like Cosprey Discharge, the faster you kill monsters, the more damage you get, which allows you to kill monsters faster, which allows you to get more damage, and again, which will kill fast, etc. It's very much like Headhunter. I feel like if it's not nerfed, it needs to be rarer from Ashe in the Breachstone, which is fine. I think having this as a chase item would be really cool. But I think it's way too much powerful at the moment. I've had half my damage or more come from Ashe's Mirror in runs a lot of the time. And when you get it early on with a Victor on day 1 or 2, you can basically skip gearing up your character completely and go into like tier 12 maps and just wreck them with an Ashe's Mirror and the Victor on, just because you get so much free damage from it. So very powerful. It's also kind of limiting. You can't really look at many other shields because you just lose so much damage from dropping Ashe's Mirror. It's easily the single biggest DPS upgrade for any mapper in the game if you're going fast enough. So I definitely think it's a very dominant item and need to look at in some way, shape, or form. Moving on, just a few more things that I'd like to see kind of brought in line. Magic Find feels way too dominant, and it's been this way for a long time. I know that the Quant Gem got removed, and I was so happy about that because when these Magic Find things are in the game, basically it forces you into using them. Like every piece of Magic Find gear basically says, let's say we get 20% Magic Find on a pair of Gold Worm, it says 20% increased clear speed, like, and 20% increased profit on your maps. So not only are you getting, every time you run a map, you're getting 20% of that map again as free stuff. That's too much to even compete with. You need to use all the Magic Find gear you can possibly get, and I really don't like that. Like they bring out all these cool new items, right? And you can't even use any of them because you have to use Venter's rings, you have to use Bisco's collar, you have to use the boots, and now I'm even having to look at maybe even looking not running Insanity gloves because just Sedemas are so good. So next league I might not even be able to run Insanity gloves, which sucks. But when you actually look at it, is the attack speed really worth giving up just a flat out increase in profit for every map and clear speed? Probably not. But it really does feel bad to sacrifice the kind of cool stuff on your character, which you really like doing, for just more Magic Find. So I'd really like to see some of this go away. Either make it not as good, so nerf the values, or remove it completely. I know they're not going to remove it completely because obviously we've seen new items with Magic Find on it, but I really wish they would look at some other alternative way to implement Magic Find, which isn't just on the gear. It really does kind of pigeonhole you into using the same gear every single league and having no choices basically because you just have to use the Magic Find gear. So I'd like to see that changed and gotten rid of, to be honest with you, which is fine. And then movement skills. This is one that is a bit funny. I think they should be nerfed. This is the clear speed meta in a nutshell. The clear speed meta is going nowhere until movement skills are nerfed, or the ability to scale them like we do right now. Shield charge, Whirling Blades, Leap Slam, they're all way too fast. Like you can see in the video here, I'm just zooming around at like light speed, and this isn't even as fast as you can go. With Cosprey, you're going to go way much, like so much faster because you don't even have to stop to cast with Cosprey. That's why it's so good. With Cosprey Discharge, your attack is your shield charge. So every time you shield charge, you explode and kill everything around you. So literally, you just shield charge through the whole map. And the only thing that you need to do to increase clear speed is not get not get cast speed, not really get damage, not really get anything else, just get more attack speed so you can shield charge faster, get into more packs faster, exploding more. And that's kind of insane. I think that the multipliers on how shield charge scaled should probably be looked at, so that you need to invest more into attack speed to get as much move speed as you currently do. Because right now you can just put on a Bright Beak, use Blood Rage, and get some Frenzy charges, and you're almost at the point I am here in this video, which is kind of absurd. I think a character like this should have to heavily invest into attack speed to kind of get the results we're getting. Um, and I would like to see that adjusted a little bit. And that would fix up a little bit of your clear speed mana because by going so much attack speed, you bring in line the damage a little bit because you have to invest more on the tree into attack speed, which could be really good for the game. And then lastly, um, conversion was introduced as this massive chased modifier on Elder and Shaper items, but I really do think it's hurt build diversity a lot. So every single build seems to be either some sort of physical damage build or Abyss Jewel stacking elemental build. The reason everyone's going physical damage is because of the elemental conversion. It's easily the best modifier on any single weapon you can get, apart from getting a double tier 1 mirror quality bow or something like that, which obviously is a bit out of the question in a league unless you have thousands of chaos. But yeah, for your average player, you can just pick up a conversion, dagger, scepter, or anything like that, and just nothing is better than that in the game. You just got your best in slot, which you're going to get for the whole league. I don't really like that. I feel like you shouldn't be able to get an item which is so much more powerful than any other item you can possibly get in the game so easily. And when I say easy, obviously you do have to sit down with a few thousand alterations to craft the thing, but you're going to be able to get these week one, and it's kind of a bit discouraging that these chase items that they're making of Uber Elder and stuff are just going to be completely destroyed by the fact that you can just get a Shaper and Elder base. And all of the normal items in the game become completely useless because of these Shaper and Elder bases. So I do think they dropped the ball a little bit there. I would have liked to see the Shaper and Elder stuff be more unique than just it's a better base. So yeah, I think that we could see a few nerfs on some of the mods which are on the Shaper and Elder items. to kind of bring them in line with other items, maybe make them more unique and niche instead of just flat out more powerful than every other rare item in the game because they're Shaper and Elder. So that's kind of what I have to say about nerfs. In terms of buffs, it's pretty easy. They just need to buff all of the non-good things. That's kind of a bit general, but if you're looking at things to buff, you need to buff things like kind of like Ice Crash, Earthquake, stuff like that. Um, Area increases need to be brought back in. It feels really bad to play an area build where you just can't hit anything around you. It is definitely Path of Projectiles right now. It seems kind of hypocritical to say that area skills are too powerful and they hit the entire screen when you have something like EK in the game. So they need to be either brought back up or EK needs to be taken down. Maybe limit the projectile speed of what's on EK or something like that. I really do think that obviously we're talking about nerfs a lot here and not so much about buffs. But in terms of nerfs versus buffs, I think that nerfs are definitely what the game needs right now. We're seeing massive increases in power. We've seen it in Abyss and 3.1, and we're seeing it even more in Bestiary League. My God, the corrupted crafting, that is a massive power creep, and it's just gonna really negatively impact the game, in my opinion. Obviously, I know we need to progress the systems and improve kind of like what we'll be able to do in the game. That's what's fun. But when you look at it from kind of the perspective of progression, they're adding in all these new ways to become more and more powerful and become more powerful quickly. But they're not really adding anything which is more difficult to the game. They're not taking power away where they're adding it. So they're not getting that, making better items for you to get and then decreasing the power of your skills or anything like that. They're just flat out increasing power across the board. And without introducing more challenging content, it's really not going to bode well for the longevity of the game, in my opinion. So they're adding in Uber Elder. That's fantastic. But for a lot of us, bosses aren't kind of why we play the game. We play the game to do maps, to do dungeons kind of thing. Like that's what it was back in the day. You do a dungeon and it's really fun. You clear the dungeon out and maybe there's a boss at the end, maybe there's not. But it's just the fun going through the dungeon and clearing out all the monsters. That's why I play PoE at least. And right now there's not really too much challenge or any challenge at all in clearing out maps. Even tier 16 maps are fairly trivial. I would really love to see them introduce some sort of really, really tough mapping content as opposed to just, oh, a new boss. Oh, look, I died there, just as I said that mapping's trivial. So yeah, what I'd like to see in the future, obviously it's not going to be in 3.2, but some really tough mapping content, perhaps some sort of end game map, unlimited ledge kind of thing, which increases in power, something like that. We're going after all these massively powerful items and massive chase items like Headhunter and stuff, but there's really no really like reason to. There's no difficult content in the game which would require us to do so. Chris Wilson keeps saying that he wants to add stuff to the game which is really difficult and is something to strive for, but there's just nothing really like that in the game right now. You can kill Shaper on like 50C if you get the right gear off PoE trade. It's kind of ridiculous. There's no end game really left in PoE. It's just make more money, which I like making money. It's fun, but I do also like to have something to go like strive towards, which is kind of what I'm getting at here. The more you buff everything in the game, the shorter the game becomes, and the shorter each league becomes for when you're playing it. Like I've noticed it a lot. I think in Legacy, I played the whole entire league, even with all the extensions, just because there was so much to do. There was so many different challenging combinations that you could apply to maps, and you could get some really insane ones. You could do double beyond shrines and boxes, and that was really fun. I really enjoyed Legacy League for that reason. You could really take maps to the extreme, and I really want them to bring that back. So I guess that's kind of the conclusion of this video. The more they seem to be introducing power creep, the more the game becomes shorter each league, for me at least. So what I'd like to see them do is nerf basically all the really powerful items in the game. I really do think that they should take a look at the Abyss Jewels again and the Stygian Vice. I also do think that they should look at a lot of the top tier skills right now. Barrage is still insane. They kind of nerfed it and then buffed it. I got a little bit of a dock here, which is just what I was talking about. They nerfed it and then they buffed it again, and then also Molten Strike. They've really let some things get very out of control. So I'd like to see them rein all that back in with the Ascendancy changes or something similar. So that's kind of going to be my little discussion video here. Let me know what you guys think about nerfs versus buffs. In terms of buffs, I'd just like to see some of the lower skills come up, or maybe not even buff anything. Just nerf all the high tier skills down a little bit, make the game a little bit harder, make us kind of have to work for those achievements that we've gotten so easily in past leagues. If you guys disagree with me, I'd love to hear about it. If you guys agree, let me know in the comments as well. Even making items more difficult to obtain would be cool. So at the moment, everyone's getting their headhunter on like week 1 and stuff like that. That's kind of a bit disappointing in my opinion. I'd really like to see some items in the game which take like weeks to get. Maybe they're not even able to be gotten through trading. Maybe you have to grind all of the maps on the atlas and get a divination card from every single map on the atlas, and that's how you get it. I reckon that something like that would be pretty cool. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed my little discussion here, and yeah, I hope we can get some discussion going down in the comment section below. Let me know what you guys think of this kind of video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.